Hey guys, it's the Gimble.Karmy show. It is Tuesday, June 19th, 2012, and we're joined with two fantastic people. We're going to try and do a doubleheader today. We've got Mouz.Kaelaris, also known as James Carroll, and LgN.Karmy, also known as Matthew Mulholland. I think I got that right.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I thought you were like, yes, I nailed it. That's fucking awesome. And then you're like, oh, I've screwed it up now.
I was
Okay,
super
you
excited
still
the
got it.
first time. Okay, good.
Still got it.
Well, welcome both of you. James, maybe starting with you, could you just give us a quick introduction for the few people in existence who don't know about you?
Sure, I am Kaelaris, James Kaelaris Carroll from Mouse.Sports. However, recently been picked up by ESL to be able to cast all their English StarCraft 2 stuff. So in the future, we'll be casting more WCS for Blizzard, more IEM stuff, and all the other events that do come along.
Fantastic. And Matt, for those couple people who haven't heard your name yet, what can you tell us about yourself?
Well, I'm a High Master Protoss player. I play for Team Legion, and I just recently moved back home from living in the Ministry of Wind house in Poland. That's probably the most notable stuff about me.
Well, today, didn't you also have notable achievement?
Yeah, somewhat. I did a okay run in TSL Qualifier Online, beat TT1, got to round 4, I think, and then I lost to PvP to, I forget his name, another GM Protoss. Oh yeah, I totally forgot his name, but yeah, he played a pretty good game. It was pretty good though, but yeah.
All right.
So that wasn't bad.
Guys, real quick before we really get into the interview, just to let you know, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in chat. The show will be roughly broken up into 2 parts, so at the end of the first part, we'll ask a set of questions then, and at the end of the second part, we'll do another set of questions. And if I miss any questions, put them again, I'll try and get them in the second half. But starting out, you know, I think we all know there are a lot of shows that focus on metagame, focus on strategies, improving your gameplay. So I'd really love to talk to you both more about yourselves, more about your own history, your own story with gaming, and maybe starting out with that, Matt, how big a part of was gaming in your life growing up? Was it always just a big thing for you?
Growing up, like I've always been gaming, but never really competitively. Like I got my first like Nintendo when I was like 4 years old and played Mario and all that stuff. But like my entire life has been really casual, just playing games with my brother and just not really taking it seriously until played World of Warcraft semi-competitively, like 3v3 Arena and whatnot. But even then, I never took too much time into it or too much focus. And then it wasn't until around StarCraft came out that I really wanted to improve at a game more so than any other game. So I just kind of really stuck with that. But yeah, for the most part, like gaming's been pretty much there my entire life, but more or less just casually until now.
Well, what about StarCraft caught your interest? Why did you want to play that game, take that game so seriously?
Well, I've always been like competitive with everything I did in life, and my friends are the ones that got me into StarCraft. And I had a group of 5 or 6 friends I played with, and I just always wanted to be better than them. And then I got to the point where I was way better than them, and then they stopped playing. But at that point, I was like, well, it's still a fun game, so I'm just going to keep playing. But yeah, just getting in with my friends and being competitive with them and wanting to always be better. Just kind of kept going with it from after that.
Fantastic. James, what about you? What sort of involvement has gaming had with your life?
Kind of huge. Do you want a long version or the short version?
The long version is perfect.
Well,
no rush.
Okay. I mean, actually no, because it might interfere with other questions down the line. But so basically, again, in a similar vein to what we've just heard, I have been around gaming for my entire life. My uncle introduced me, and my parents weren't particularly pleased with that. They were like, "No, don't show him games. Just let him go outside and play football." And I was like, "No, that's fine. I'll keep playing Sonic and Amiga and Commodore 64 and things like that." Fully enough, actually, when I was like 5, a girl came around to our house and broke our Commodore 64, and I will hate that girl forever.
Oh, man.
I will hate that girl forever, even though she was like 3 years old and just pulled it off with the control. Like, no, my Commodore 64. Anyway, point is, yeah, I've been around games forever since then, and I would always study at school, but I was kind of pretty good at school, so I kind of just past things and spent a lot of my time just, gaming and stuff like that. And my parents would always tell me that gaming would never get me anywhere. Spent a lot of time MMOing since the age of like 13, and then obviously played a lot of RTSs. I was actually really competitive with Red Alert 2. I was like top 50 in the world of Red Alert 2 when I was like 14 or 15, but that's another story for another time. And aside from that, just love every genre of games, not just RTS, but I can quite happily just sit down with football games, racing games, fighting games, RPGs, strategy. And then when it came to StarCraft 2, StarCraft 2 came out. I'd already played StarCraft 1 for like 7 years. StarCraft 2 came out, and I was like, right, I really want to make a go of this, because I was living in Finland at the time. But again, that's another story for another time. And it just kind of, I wanted to become competitive, realized that I was playing random, so never really thought that I could decide on one race, and then I still wanted to be involved in esports, and then kind of went down the casting role, and ta-da! I guess.
Here you are.
Yeah.
For both of you, so just a follow-up question. This may be hard to articulate, but what is, and this is a really broad question, but what is it about games in general, not necessarily StarCraft 2 or StarCraft or RTSs, but gaming in general, that you just enjoyed so much, that you played, that it stayed with you, and you kept being fascinated for so long?
Martin?
For me, like, gaming has just always been fun because you can do it with your friends no matter what the situation is. You don't have to worry about the weather that you can't play football in, or stuff like that. There's always a chance to play games, and like everyone growing up always played video games, so they're just really fun. And, they're always changing. There's always a new game out there to play, so you never really get bored of them. And everything about them is just really fun, and I think everyone would agree that there's not a video game out there that everyone would hate to play. So yeah, just everything about it is just a good time no matter what.
Yeah, like, kind of puzzle solving for me is a huge factor. Like, I just love, I mean, again, there's a huge kind of stereotype out there from like old generations that like, oh, gaming's a waste of time and stuff like that, but it imbues in you a lot of valuable skills. It even helped me in English, for Christ's sake. Like, so like we were talking about Shakespeare, for example, I think at one point, and people were like, right, what's a potion? And nobody knew what it was, like, for some reason. And I was like, well, a potion's like a little kind of concoction of like chemicals and stuff. And they were like, oh, you're right. And I was like, yeah, of course, because I played Final Fantasy for like a million hours. Like, I know what a potion is. But so it instills in you a wealth of things, and especially online gaming, just in general. Ever since I started that from the age of like 13, 14 onwards, just allows you to be able to meet so many amazing people from all over the world. Who wouldn't want to do that, right? So
yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Well, turn into StarCraft for a bit. I think you both talked a little bit about why you got interested in StarCraft, and again, this might seem like a weird question, but you guys, Matt, you play so many, you're practicing all the time, and James, you're casting so many games. Does it ever start to run together for you guys? Ever start to get monotonous? And if it ever does, how do you sort of keep yourself motivated, fresh, excited about talking about the next game, playing the next game? And start with James. Go for it.
Cool. Okay. There's been one or two times during casting where it has got kind of brutal and a little bit boring. There was one time specifically during Copenhagen Games 2012 where I was supposed to have a co-caster but didn't, as they pulled out at the last minute, and I had a throat infection. And then in the brackets, it turned out to be a TVT, and it was Cass versus Happy. And if anybody knows Happy's play style,
oh man,
exactly.
That was a fun game.
He just turtles and never ever attacks. And Cass before the game said to me, "I hate playing Happy. I hate it with every fiber of my body," because he played him on ladder like 2 days before in TVT, and he just made 3 sensor towers in exactly the same place and just turtled and just didn't do anything for like 40 minutes. So we had a best of 3 with that, which was fine. It was kind of getting boring. I wasn't too pleased, but I'm so glad that they didn't meet in the finals. I'm glad they were on the other side of the same side of the brackets as one another, because it would have been a best of 7 if it had gone to the finals. The best of 3 already went for 2 hours and a half, so I was like,
wow.
oh god.
Man, that would suck. Comes down to like the game 5 or whatever, game 7. That would suck.
In those situations, I kind of get a bit funny when people have really boring play styles where they're just turtling. Admittedly, it can work really well for players. Like Happy is a phenomenal Terran, but sometimes it does get a little bit dragging in that situation.
So what do you do? So you're in that situation and you can't exactly just leave or go watch another game. How do you keep going?
You just do. I mean, like, it's a job. Like, and that's what you do. But no, I mean, again, I love StarCraft just in general. Like, there's nothing that's gonna kind of deter that. It's, I can't really pin a point that you just do keep going. I mean, I think that when people watch my casts and stuff, I like to keep the energy kind of high, as it were, and you just kind of laugh along with the situation. That's especially if you're solo casting. Like, you don't have anybody to talk with and kind of like have a little bit of a chat with in monotonous situations. So there you go.
Yeah.
And Matt, what about you when you're doing those ladder sessions? How do you keep yourself motivated?
Well, you just play at a high level, and to keep going with it, you got to love the game for what it is. You can't just to be able to become a professional and try to make it your life, you can't, think of it as a job or as a chore. You have to want to, press the find match button and keep on going. And there are times where, you play like, 50, 60 games a day, and you're like, I just don't want to do anymore, but you know that you kind of have to. And those are times where it gets tough, but that's when you really need to just bite the bullet and keep going through. And it gets a little bit easier with StarCraft, especially being a player. Like, you can either ladder as much as you want, but then, if you're a type of person that really cares about your ladder points, you don't want to play 50 games of that and then start to play really bad and get frustrated and tilt. So then you can still, find practice partners and play like that. And with being on Legion, I have a really wide set of practice partners to be able to jump into custom games with and, just play along or, just practice. So, just the same thing as Clara said. You gotta really just keep going with it, because what determines, you from the top pros is the players that don't take breaks. They know how to fight through it and really know how to stay dedicated and motivated to keep playing. So, yeah, you really just you get used to just going with it. There's no taking breaks or giving up or quitting because you don't want to do it.
Well, can I ask you, Matt, what's a successful game to you? So you sit down, you play, and at the end of the game, if you've won, is that just enough for you, or do you have other standards you wanna meet within that game?
No, because like winning isn't improving. Like, winning in a sense is like, you're getting better and stuff, but you learn the most from losing, from being able to watch your replays and see where you made the mistakes. So during practice, like when I play custom games, I don't expect to walk into a game and win, because like when I play a custom game with, say, like I'll do a best of 10 with Theory or something, I'm not trying to beat him, right? I'm not trying to have those bragging rights. I'll sit there for a whole game and just watch the mini map, and he crushes me because I get like 1,000 minerals, banked up, and you don't play the good, but it's not so much about the pride of winning, the more just improving. So a long day, like if you can sit through 50, 60 games a day, that's kind of fulfilling. Even if you did lose, like you can't get upset with yourself, and you have to watch the replays and try to learn, or else it's not worth it. If you get upset and then you're just like, oh well, I lost because I missed a force field, that's all there is to it, there's nothing else to learn, then you're not going to improve. And at the end of the day, when you have a bad attitude like that, then it's not, then I can't really go to sleep with a good mindset.
That's an awesome mentality. I love that.
Yeah.
It's so good. Like, especially, I mean, for people out there that are watching or whatever, like, it's also really important to, like, not get angry at those losses. Like, always, like, just be like, GG, smiley face at the end of a game. Because you'll feel so much better at the end of a day.
Yeah, and, like, people don't realize that. Like, you make a lot more friends doing that than any other way. And then you can, you can improve on it too. Like, I really hate people that cry about balance. Like, I make fun of it a lot. Like, I'll be like, oh man, Protoss is terrible, it's garbage, right? Especially when I talk to my teammates. Like, I just like to get people going and cry balance about it, but I'm not serious about it, because you can't change balance. You can't, strangle David Kim and tell him to, what to change in the game. So there's no reason getting upset about it. There's nothing you can change about it. You can always change your mistakes. And get upset about yourself, not about the game.
I feel a blossoming bromance going on here. You like have
Nice.
exactly the same mentality I do towards this. Like again, you can't change the meta. Well, you can
Exactly.
change the meta game, but you can't change the balance of it. So why get uppity about it? Just
Exactly.
solve the problem and get on with
Yeah.
it.
I think that's why so many people plateau at, their skill
Yeah.
level too, is because they don't realize their mentality is such a big part of it. Because if you get upset about the game and they're like, oh, there's nothing I can do to change it, this sucks, then you start to play bad, and then when you tilt, you get even more upset, and then you just take a week off because you're like, oh, I'm just terrible at this game, whatever. You can't can't do that. You just got to fight through it and learn from your mistakes.
Too true.
Have you always had that mentality? Has it since you first started playing? Has it always been that way for you?
No, not even close. I used to get so upset at losing and just getting really mad at myself and at the game, and I used to think roaches were the biggest bullshit unit in the game, but yeah, it's just you can't keep that mentality, and it kind of shows from the people that do improve or the people that just kind of stay the same level as the people that make a change and try to better themselves for the best, I guess. But yeah, no, I used to be. I wouldn't say I was a rager. Like I wouldn't, break stuff or smash my keyboard and scream at the top of my lungs. But these those games where you just get really upset and you smash your fist on your desk or something. You don't want to play
some
anymore.
BM.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah.
You call the game stupid and that he's lucky that he plays a good race.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I used to be like that, but now it's hard. You gotta stay positive. And I'll admit, there's still some games where the Zerg goes mutas and you just want to throw something and get really pissed off, but you just gotta fight it.
Fair enough. But James, turning to casting now. What for you do you consider a successful cast?
Oh God. Well, I mean, it depends if I'm solo casting or co-casting. If I'm solo casting, it's really difficult to fill both roles in terms of play-by-play and analysis. So you kind of, for me, when I'm solo casting, I find it hard to actually find time to breathe. I end up going on huge sentences and never really kind of finding a time to actually breathe. So just filling a solo cast with as much information as possible. I know that might be a little bit overwhelming to some viewers, but just as much information as possible in terms of what's going on in the game and what's going on in the minds of the players is successful for me. Sometimes I do make wrong calls, but everyone makes wrong calls from time to time, and that's fine. In a co-cast, fitting myself around my co-caster is really important because I had so much experience solo casting. You just do it. Like again, I was living in Finland. I was just solo casting for like a year's stretched period, and you have to be able to make yourself a well-rounded caster when you're in that situation. So fitting myself to my co-caster, for example, when I'm casting with Grubby for the World Championship Series, for the most part, whilst we do engage in strategical conversations, I'm mostly the play-by-play caster there. Although that being said, Grubby's actually getting pretty good at that as well, so that's annoying. But I mean, Grubby's a fantastic guy anyway. He's amazing. But yeah, just fitting myself around my co-caster and being able to deliver that aspect of it, be it play-by-play or analysis, in a concise way.
How do you? Yeah, please go ahead.
And not repeating the same word every sentence.
Yeah.
Because that does happen to a lot of casters, and I know it happens to me as well. So, again, if you're watching out there and you hear it from time to time, I apologize. But it just kind of sticks as a tick, and you can't get rid of it from time to time.
Yeah. Well, how do you judge whether, just to take for example, working with a co-caster, how do you judge whether or not you've been able to mesh successfully with that person? Is it just by feel, sort of completely objective or subjective?
Yeah.
Check Reddit. And you check Reddit and make sure there's good feedback.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Me and Grubby actually, we get a lot of good feedback together. We're pretty, I guess, accepted by the community or whatever. And that's the person that I've been working most with co-casting. Obviously, I've been working with Zoe as well, and despite Zoe not having the highest level of knowledge or whatever, we work very well because we're good friends with one another and stuff. So the chemistry there is really good. But it has a lot to do with how you also interact with the person off camera. me and Grubby have, again, very kind of similar levels of positive attitudes and kind of happy outlook on life and stuff. So I think that's why we mesh really well in terms of casting. And we're kind of not, I wouldn't say carefree about it, but if it just kind of becomes a conversation, not necessarily a very regimented cast, I'm speaking, you're speaking, I'm speaking, you're speaking, then I think it works well from there.
Hmm. With players, I think the community talks a lot about how, or explored a lot about how players prepare for matches, they prepare for tournaments. But casting, how do you prepare for casting? Or do you? I mean, you've done it for so long. Do you just wake up and sit down and start talking?
There's a lot of controversy about this, which a lot of people think that casters get paid more than what they should receive. I'm relating this back to it because from what I see and from what I hear, I'm not throwing out names by any means, so let's not get into that. But we see a lot of casters that kind of just rest on their laurels and kind of just do what they do without a lot of prep work. But I know for a fact that some casters, especially like people like Diapollo, Artosis, obviously he just lives StarCraft. I mean, his life is StarCraft. He's a DT in real life. But for me, whilst I was solo casting in Finland and just kind of not really doing this full time, there was a lot of preparation. My entire day was dedicated to casting, every single day. And now that I'm able to do it for a full-time job as well, it's even more so dedicated to casting. So I'm always making notes, always looking through replays, always trying to... If I've got a cast, say, for example, the RSL, which is the Russian StarCraft League thing that we're currently casting at ESL, there's like 3 designated players per thing. Per like night. So I will, for that entire day, take those 3 players, download their replays, look at their statistics, look at if they've played each other before, for example, and then work that into the cast, make it more of a story, make it something that kind of can interact a lot more with the viewer and give some the more knowledge than just what is going on in the games right now. So for me, preparation is really, really important. And again, I'm being paid to do this, and I love it anyway, so why not give it everything? So,
yeah. So do you think you're like one of the only casters that really takes that much time to look into the backstory of players? Because like when I watch your cast, you're really informed on not just like the actual matchup, but the player in general. Like I like your cast whenever I watch ESL, but like I can't tell if it's just other casters not being as good of a caster, or they're just too lazy to really take the back time.
I think there are a lot of casters that do that. I mean, again, there are people like Artosis that just has a phenomenal mind in terms of remembering all the information, and then there's people like Apollo that really spends a lot of time going over replays, studying the players and stuff. I personally think that, without judging too many people, I personally think that there's a lot of casters that don't put in the preparation time that they should be doing.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, I've not been in this that long, so I can't judge on a huge time span. But from what I've seen, the small snippets of what I've seen, people are not necessarily preparing enough.
Yeah. But I think it shows in their cast too about how knowledgeable they are, and it's just the little things like that that I think makes it more enjoyable to watch and listen to people. So I think it really does make the caster better if they take the time.
Again, I mean, we've been speaking to, I don't know if I should disclose this or whatever, but we've been speaking a lot to Blizzard recently about like the story aspect of casts and making something not just about the game that's going on right now, but having a big like something before that and an end to it as well. And for me, that is, I mean, that's always been an important aspect. I've spoken to Paul Chandler, who is Red Eye, the Counter-Strike caster.
Oh yeah,
who
okay.
has been in the scene forever. He's like 40-some now. He's like an amazing guy. And then also Grubby. We've spoken about the story aspect of a cast, and it's, to me, hugely important that I portray that story properly.
I agree.
So,
yeah, I think it's a lot more enjoyable. Like GSL this past season, like they had 91 ST in the same group, and there's a bunch of players like that imparting in Marine King. It just makes it more enjoyable to watch when they have a backstory to players.
How bad is it that we didn't see Nani on ST? I was like,
I know, that was terrible. I was heartbroken.
I was clawing at my face. I was like, please just line up with one another.
Yeah, they put them in the same group and they didn't even get to play.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh well.
Kaelaris, can I follow up on Matt's question? Which it's an excellent question, but it got me thinking. You put in so much time and effort, even back in Finland, but you were also able to do that because if I remember correctly, in Finland you didn't have a job. You were looking for one, but you didn't have a full-time job then.
That is correct.
So you had a lot of time where you could put on, do all this research. Do you think that? I guess can the average caster who really loves StarCraft and wants to be good at casting, is it possible for them to do what you're doing?
I have a strong feeling on that. It's
Sure.
difficult to make it as a caster because again, everyone's always talking about the entry barriers to become like a professional caster in the scene, and everyone's saying that it's very, very difficult to get into. And for the most part, I would say it kind of is. I would say that unless you have the full dedication of literally like 8 hours a day to be able to refine your craft and be able to kind of establish the contacts and know who you need to know and shake the hands of people you need to know as well as having the talent, then it's really, really difficult, very difficult to be able to get into casting, at a professional level at least. When I say professional, I mean being paid full-time for it.
Well, I was actually going to ask this later, but I think this is a great place to ask it, because you did mention in your AMA, you were talking about, when asked about your quick rise to fame, you cited, being able to shake hands with people, being able to really start working with organizations. So, and you mentioned it just now. So I'm curious if you think that in order to be, maybe not full-time and paid, but to be a really strong caster, that you have to, and successful, you have to be able to be media savvy, business savvy as well. Is that, like, you can't just be good at talking about StarCraft? Yes.
I will definitively say yes, and again, people can quote me on that. There's a fine line between the casting scene right now being a gentleman's club, exclusively gentlemen's. I keep doing these whole quotation marks, but it really is applicable. There's a fine line between it being a complete gentleman's club and it being kind of open to rising stars. It's hard to break into this business, and the only reason I was able to do it is because I attended events, because I shook the hands of people that I did. For example, I don't care about disclosing the way in which I rose to fame. The way in which I did it was I was able to shake hands with the people who organize Assembly Winter in Finland, and as such, I was able to get 1 or 2 casting situations there. Off the back of that, I was able to meet Mr. Bitter at this event, and he was impressed with what he saw in terms of the casting. As such, he recommended me to ESL to be able to cast the IEM World Championship, because they needed more casters for it, because it was a rigorous time schedule. So it's all about being in the right place at the right time. It's all about shaking the hands that you need to be able to do. And again, it is partially skill, but if, say for example, ESL doesn't employ people that they don't fully kind of are convinced will be able to perform. So being in the right place and excuse me, I've drank a bit too much wine. Being in the right place at the right time and being able to shake the hands of people you need to know is really, really important.
What about, Matt, can I turn to you for a second and just ask you, because we've talked to, Gimble and I have talked to a couple players like Final Chance, who has been very outspoken about the player scene, the foreign player scene in particular, being very similar to what James just described. Do you feel that same way? Do you feel like the player scene and the caster scene you have to be really media savvy to be successful?
I think there's a definite side to it. The difference with being a player and a caster is if you're a hell of a good player, you're going to get recognized and going to get picked up. There's another route, like, you have someone like Destiny, who's still a hell of a good player, but he got his fame from being a really avid, really fun to watch streamer. So I think there's two different avenues that way, and I think I think it's a bit easier to become a player in a sense that with being a caster, like with ESL, they don't change up their casting, duo a lot. Like they probably just open up 2 spots because they lost Rotterdam or Bitterdam or both of them. But for the most part, like major tournaments, they have 4 to 6 casters at a time. But when you go to a tournament, there's 256 slots in an open tournament. So I think like becoming a professional player, I wouldn't say it's easy. I would say it's a lot easier to get recognized than a caster trying to make a living out of it. But yeah, I think being good in media is a definite help because if you get your name out there, it's a lot easier even if you're skilled. Because there's a lot of players in high GM that just aren't recognized because they don't take the time to put their name out there. All they do is ladder and they try to win tournaments and stuff, but they really don't try and promote themselves as a brand for the most part. Because the teams, if you're not winning MLGs, you have to be good PR for your team. And if you're not good PR for your team, there's a lot of other players out there with the relative same skill level that will be able to fill that role and make it worth it for people and their sponsors to pick you up and want to invest into you.
Did you say that it was easier or harder to become a caster as opposed to a player? Sorry.
I think being recognized as a caster is a lot harder because there's just such a smaller pool of being able to be recognized, in my opinion.
I don't agree.
Really?
I think that becoming a player, and being able to kind of enter those upper echelons of, not only being each of them comes with their own difficulties.
Yeah, I totally see where you're coming from. Because, to be
Yeah.
a player, you got to put in those 10 hours a day. To, be an MVP
Yeah.
or, like a top foreigner, I think it's harder. But, just for being, known or being recognized in the scene, right? Like, for being a well-known caster, like I said, tournaments take on, 4 to 6 casters per event, right? And they don't change their lineups often. Like, the well-known casters get invited to every other event, and, there's a pretty core group of really well-known casters that make a really reasonable living doing it. And with players, like the player roster switch up a lot. I'm not saying it's harder or easier, but I just mean since there's so many more players and more open spots in tournaments, I think being a well-known or recognized player is easier than being a recognized caster in the sense of just being in the eyes of the public.
I can empathize with what you're saying. You mean basically, as you're saying, 6 to 8 casters per event, but for the player pool, that's a huge portion and a huge margin
there's
bigger.
256, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, that's what I mean. Because the players put in a lot of time, and to be like an MLG winning player, I think it's one of the hardest things to do. But for being just recognized and have your name out there and known, I think it's a little bit. I think there's more spots to be known instead of just being the 8 and getting hopefully lucky and getting your name out there as a caster.
Yeah.
Can I ask you both? Do you think, both with casting and with players, that we've stagnated at all in terms of who's the best? Not to say that positions are changing, but that there's a core group of casters that people decide these are really strong casters, and we're not really. You're not seeing a lot of change around, and we've sort of decided these are more or less the top players, and we're not seeing a lot of new people being able to break in and get the spotlight outside of just pure skill, but in terms of public recognition.
Adam?
I wouldn't say it's ever going to stagnate, because even with casters, like I said, there's not as many opportunities to pop up to be one of those core casters or a top caster in a major tournament like an MLG, but it still happens quite often. You look at Rob Simpson that just came up out of nowhere recently, and there's players and guys like him that just come up out of nowhere and do get that chance to shine, right? And even Fallout, because if you look at Husky, he doesn't do as much, I should say, anymore, or HD doesn't do as much anymore, and it's still always switching around. There's always going to be a player or a caster coming up that's just going to be able to fill a role better than somebody else, and they will be switched out. Same with the players. I don't think players ever stagnate in the top. I think there's always going to be switching out of players between the metagame and expansions and patches. There's always going to be just people switching out for players.
It's going to be very interesting to see what happens when Heart of the Swarm comes out.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. I think it's going to be a really good pick-me-up for the Brewboard pros. They're really good to switch over and hopefully pick it up again.
Yeah, that's very true. In terms of my opinion on that for casters, I think that, yeah, again, there is that very kind of elite set of casters that are never really going to get replaced or knocked down again off their laurels, as it were. But there's a lot of people that I know specifically, and even myself to a certain degree, that are very hungry for those higher positions. I mean,
Yes.
whilst I'm just doing the ESL stuff, and again, I'm very fortunate to be in a position where I'm going to be casting like IEMs and stuff like that. That's like a dream come true. But I'm always looking for more, and I'm always looking to improve myself to a point where I can attain more in terms of like, I want to cast MLGs, I want to cast dream hacks, I want to be able to kind of get those places. So, but again, there's a lot of people that aren't as well known as me, kind of, that do want that as well. Whether they can put the time in is a big question,
Yeah.
because I don't think people give not only the kind of social networking side of it enough credit, or the actual kind of time they need to put in terms of improving themselves enough credit, but it does take a lot of time, and it relates a lot back to what you were asking me before about like how much time you actually have to put into it, and it's like a full-time job when you're wanting to really get into it seriously. So.
Two to three questions more, and then we'll take a quick break. I did really want to ask you guys about. Make sure I got it here. It's something I skipped over earlier, but trying to think of the best way to phrase it. Best moments, exceptional moments, memorable moments, both professional and non-professional, just related to gaming, things that stick out to you, stories, or maybe start with Matt.
I don't really have like a really outside of just like a huge achievement or something like that. I have a lot of, like I said, growing up playing games, you associate with friends, a lot of just fun situations you find yourself in. And I think if I have to give one, just a funny story. I think my first week in Ministry of Win, when I first got to meet Snoot, me and Cytoplasm were going out to the market to get some Red Bulls and whatnot, and Snoot asked us to give him socks because he didn't bring enough, I guess. So on our drive over there, I was like, oh man, he never really said like what size or what, in particular type of socks he wanted. So when we got to the market, I had this great idea. I was like, we're going to try and pick him out like the girliest socks we can find. Like we're just going to get him like frilly pink girly socks that he's not going to want to wear. He's going to hate it, right? And so we spent 20 minutes trying to find these socks, and we found these ones that were like, it was a pair of two. It was one pair was pink, the other one was white. They had like ribbons on them and like flowers and like as girly as it could possibly be. And then I also got him like this pair of like child size like Taz socks, like Taz the Maniac Devil or whatever. And then I was like so busy laughing. Cytoplasm was like, well, we can't just like give him these two pair of socks. He really needs socks. So we actually got him a good pair, but. So when we got back to the house, he was playing a Playham and he was streaming. And I think he had like 800 concurrent viewers, and we made him like check his socks out on the stream. And Snoop, being like the really nice guy he is, we like give him the socks, and I'm like trying not to laugh, right? Because I thought he was like going to get upset and like want to burn the socks and stuff. And I'm like, here, man, this is all they had, and you really didn't say what kind of socks you like, so we just kind of picked you up the best we thought we could find. And then Snoop's like, oh, you guys, are you serious? Like, this is really all you got? I was like, yeah, man, I'm really sorry. I know, just like that's all they had. And then Snoopy, the nice guy is, he's like, oh, well, I guess it's better than nothing. Do you guys want some money for it or something? I was like so upset. He just took it so well, and he's just so nice about it. He even offered to like give us money for it, and I was like, oh man, I think you ruined it so bad. I laughed the entire way home. But yeah, that was a good time. That was probably the best I had so far.
Well played.
Indeed. So you're asking best time in terms of.
I mean, best, just something that stands out for you. I mean, I guess to give you an example, it doesn't necessarily have to be something like an achievement. Like for me, non-professional best moment I can think of right now is like, I'm 22 and I've got a couple friends I've had for 15 years, and we got together after 6 or 7 months for a small road trip down to Florida and in the U.S. and we're just decided we're going to go on the trip for 4 or 5 days, and our sub goal just out of nowhere becomes we're going to bring a Game Boy Color with us and play Pokemon Red, and by the end of the trip we have to get through the Elite Four. And so the last day of the 5 days with like 4 or 5 hours left, we're 20 levels under-leveled, and then, like 2 Pokemon left, and we just finally take down the Elite Four, and it's amazing. It doesn't have to be like,
That's a pretty good
money
story,
or
man.
yeah.
When it involves Pokemon and the Elite Four, I'm down with that. That's fine. That's pretty awesome. No, I guess this is kind of bedroom talk. Well, it's actually not bedroom talk. I make that sound a little bit more pervert than it actually is. But hear me out. Hear me out. I'm probably not supposed to be telling this story, but whatever. So, the one thing that I will always I've not been in esports for a long time, mind you, not the professional scene at least. But one thing I will literally remember forever is I was what was it for? It was for the Poland Nationals, World Championship Series Poland Nationals for Blizzard, and it wasn't too long ago, so this was quite recent, obviously. I was sharing a room with Grubby in a hotel in this specific hotel, and we were just kind of chatting whilst we were in bed, just kind of just not together, obviously, just chatting, just having conversations and stuff. And he was telling me about a specific moment that he had. I was like, well, what's your worst experience? This is me telling a story about somebody else's story, now that I think about it. But anyway, we're going to go through with it. And it was like, well, what's the worst time you've spent in a hotel in terms of your travels? Because obviously Grubby's been everywhere in terms of like esports and stuff. So he was telling me about this hotel that he stayed in Italy, and he required to do a visual demonstration with this. And he was telling me how there was like bugs like all over like the curtains and stuff, like big bugs. And I will never forget in my entire life Grubby demonstrating in his like boxers and vest how he was like swatting bugs from the roof with a huge book, and he demonstrated this to me on his bed. It was phenomenal. So there you go. He's gonna kill me if he ever watches this. I'm hoping he doesn't.
Oh, one sec, I'm gonna totally tweet him to tune in.
Yeah. I think he's on his way back from China, so.
Oh yeah.
Let's hope that. Yeah.
Alright, well, actually, I'm going to throw the other question out the window, because I know that, James, Matt, we were talking about, you mentioned the Ministry of Wind, and then, James, I know before this, you said you had some questions, so do you want to ask?
Well, I mean, now that I think about it, it's nothing too specific. I mean, just like, how was the setup there? I mean, like, did you, because you're from America, I'm guessing. Like,
yeah, I'm from Canada.
So, I mean, like, did you pay to get there? Did they pay for you to get there? And like,
no, like they charge all players per month. So okay. I myself, from savings and my team, help out a lot getting me over there and living expenses and whatnot.
How is actually no, maybe that's quite a rude question. It's like asking
go ahead.
Somebody's. I mean, how much does Legion support their players in terms of? Because I know how much like Mouse Sports will say, for example, support their players. How much does Legion kind of contribute to that?
I can't like go into specific numbers,
yeah.
But like for me personally, like I don't, I'm not a tournament winning player, and they helped out tremendously, just making sure I was comfortable over there, making sure I didn't need anything. Everything about it. Our sponsors are great. Razer even got gear to me over there, all the way over in Poland. After halfway through the process, I had to switch, mailing addresses and stuff. So.
Wait a minute. You said Razer supported you. Like, why are you wearing SteelSeries headphones?
Oh wait, because I actually broke them. I actually broke these headset. No, because I'll even show you. I even have them like right up in here. I haven't even unpacked my bag since I left yet. So I have my actual Razer headset right here.
All right. Okay.
On the flight home, like my headset can actually plug into this thing. So I took it out, and when I was standing up, like get off the like my 9-hour flight, I forgot they're underneath my foot, and I stepped on them. So when I got here, this is my backup headset.
Okay.
Everything else is Razer.
So basically, what you're saying is that SteelSeries always second choice.
Yes, always. They're always the really, really good backup for when you screw up your main product.
Okay. Did I have other questions? Who else was living at the house at the time? I heard that Snoop was there, and I heard that Destiny was going at some point.
He was on his way. I never actually got a chance to live with him. He was still working a few things out, because he was bringing his... I don't know if it's his girlfriend, his baby mama. I don't know if they're still together or not, but he was bringing her and his kid. Yeah, and he's bringing the baby's mother and the kid with him as well. So they're setting up a way for... They weren't living at the house. They weren't living in Ministry of Wind. They're setting up in a separate apartment.
He's bringing the kid's mom.
Mm-hmm. and the kid itself, I think.
I thought they weren't
I,
together anymore.
I don't know. Yeah, that's what I thought too. But I don't know the actual situation. But yeah, he was on his way over, but I left I think a week before he got there.
Right.
But other than that, yeah, Snoot was living there. Cytoplasm was living there. Wilco, if you know him, he's a German Protoss player.
Mm-hmm.
And Breathe, and then we had our coach Matiz was there. And there's a few other players coming. I think Ukraine Star's there now.
Wait,
Hunted's
Matiz
there.
was a coach?
Yeah,
I thought he was a player.
Nope, he was a coach. He's
Oh.
a pretty damn good player, but yeah, he was the coach for the house.
Yeah, because I keep seeing him competing in SC2s and go for SC2s even. So I was
Yeah,
like,
he still plays quite a lot. He
yeah.
he worked really hard there too. It was great.
How is he doing as a coach, out of curiosity?
Really good. Couldn't have asked for better. Like he was just really wanting to make sure we were always set. Like trying to find practice partners. Shit. Or or the trying to find his practice partners. Like if we were having a problem in a matchup, like he didn't understand anything about Protoss, but like he would still look through replays and try to find his builds that he thought were good, and he would like go through, write all the specific timings down, and then find his practice partners to go through. And he worked really hard and he worked really well. I appreciated everything he did for us a lot. He worked all the time.
Newfound respect for Matiz, seriously.
Sure
cool.
did. Yeah.
Cool.
Respect
Well, I
that
mean,
man like crazy.
that's kind of all I have to ask about.
Yeah.
I mean, I could ask more stuff, but I'll keep it short.
Well, I'm actually really curious. I mean, you were only there for 3 weeks, but did you notice a real difference in the mentality, the way you were playing, the way you felt about playing while you were at the Ministry of Wind?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, like I did learn a lot, mostly because just playing with Snoot and Cytoplasm, they gave me a lot of tips and little things in my play. But I think the biggest thing was learning how to practice efficiently. Because even when I was at home, I would practice. I'd play a lot, but it wasn't structured practice. Like I'd take breaks, I'd watch videos on YouTube, and I'd still get in a structured amount of games, but when we were there, it was a set schedule. We would wake up, eat breakfast, practice for 5 hours straight, right? And then there was some serious practice, really efficient practice, and it was different. But I think it was a really good thing because now when I come home, I can still set the same schedule for myself, and I know what I should be practicing on. And that was, I think, the biggest learning experience. Because there wasn't one major flaw in my play that's just like, oh well, here do this, and now you're Grandmaster. It was a lot of little things that I now just have to work on. But I think finding the proper way to practice was the biggest thing by far.
Do you feel like it's, now that you're back home, do you feel like it's more difficult now to keep to that schedule, or have you sort of got yourself on a routine?
For the most part, it's I stay on the schedule, but it is really difficult because now I have a lot of my friends still want to hang out, and I mean I still have family now, so it's harder to stay as dedicated throughout the weekends because we had half days on Saturday there and Sundays were off. But most of the time we still ended up playing because that's all you do in a gaming house is you have a computer and you play. So, but now that we're home, it's a little bit more difficult. But like I said, you have to love the game to be good at it. So it's kind of one of the things I still want to do in my time off is continue playing and continue to improve. So. I'm not gonna lie, yeah, it's definitely been a little bit of a hit to my practice schedule, but not as bad as I would have thought.
And do you plan to go? Do you think you'll be able to go back? Do you have any intention?
I hope so. I have full intentions to go back. It just depends on the future because, like I said, Legion has partnership with Xenex, so there's always possibility to stay at the Xenex house if there's room, which I'd love to do. I think that'd be a great experience. Or their team house is setting up. I don't know when exactly, but they're looking to set up a team house as well. So that's in the near future possibly. But I'd still love to go back. I think it's out of all the team houses, outside of Korea, it's definitely one of the best to be at, from my experience at least.
Well, this first half was supposed to be like a half an hour, and we're now almost an hour, which is fine with me, but I do feel bad keeping you guys a little bit longer.
It's already been an hour? Thought it was like 20 minutes. That went by really fast.
I know.
Great.
Alcohol and laughing makes it go completely fine.
So it's great.
Well, to end on this first half, you're looking at the second half of 2012. It's maybe starting with James. What are your goals? Maybe both professional and personal.
Oh wow. That's interesting. I wasn't expecting personal. So okay, professionally, I guess just trying to cast as much as I possibly can do, building up my name a little bit. Again, it's kind of hard to catch up to people that are already well established, and I guess I'll have to. I mean, I imagine once the IEM season comes up and we start traveling to where we're actually traveling to, which I can't disclose the locations of just yet, then my popularity will spike, as it were. But aside from that, I really want to be able to try and cast MLGs, and I really want to cast DreamHacks. I was very, very close to cast doing some stuff with DreamHack this past time, but again, maybe we'll be in talks with them soon. In terms of personal life, that's interesting. For those of people who don't know, I'm a drummer. I've been drumming for 13 years. Now I'm a fencer. I've been fencing for about 6 or 7 years, which is also apparent because of the stereotypical English gent and hair and things like that. So I really want to end up having an electric drum kit around here sometime, which I will end up purchasing. But aside from that, I want to... This is a bit more deep, actually. I really want someone to share this experience with, in terms of a girlfriend kind of thing. I had a girlfriend in Finland, but things didn't work out too well because of conflicts, as it were. But to be able to share... I mean, I see people like Grubby and Cassandra sharing what they do and stuff like that, and they are the cutest couple ever.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling annoying how cute. And
yeah,
I spend
that's
so much
a...
time with them. Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, like sharing this experience with someone would be really, really cool. I would love to be able to do that and like fight the world like with someone who is like-minded like me. That'd be cool. So that's a personal goal.
So when you say someone to share the experience with, it's not someone who has to necessarily be like a big gamer themselves, but someone who can do. So are you looking for someone like a big gamer themselves, or someone who enjoys that you're passionate about something and wants to support that?
The support is a huge thing. Like, my ex, I don't really think I've spoken about this properly publicly, but my ex was kind of supportive in terms financially, but emotionally she wasn't kind of supportive. So it really kind of put a very kind of painstaking kind of like ticking time bomb on our relationship, as it were. But for me, like anybody who would be willing to support this, or even anybody who was willing to kind of like really take a full interest in this, would be super cool. Like I would love to be able to just, because I'm going to be traveling a lot, like a lot.
That's the hardest part about keeping a relationship, is traveling so much.
So you kind of want to like take that person with you to be able to kind of like just kind of have that person with you, but whatever. Again, maybe I've drank too much wine and maybe that's why I'm talking about it, but it doesn't matter, right? Who cares? So yeah, that's that.
That's okay, man.
Yep.
Drunken words or sober thoughts. Always remember that. That's a good one.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't remember that one, actually. I'll write that down. Real quick, Matt, before we go to you, there is one question. James, people want to know when you started casting, first started casting.
When did I first start casting?
Yeah.
About a year and a bit ago. I have had a quicker road to kind of, I guess, stardom, in inverted commas once again, but I'm not going to do the quotation marks in the air because that's silly, for about the 10th time. No, so about a year and a bit ago, maybe it's almost 2 years now, but it was a lot of YouTube casting and then realizing that streaming was the way to go and trying to talk to organizations saying, hey, I really want to stream your tournaments, let me stream. And yeah. So
what was the first cast that you remember?
Ever? In terms of...
That you did?
It was, we were still living at my ex-girlfriend's mum's at the time, so I had to be really quiet and like kind of shy and bashful. But it was, I started my YouTube account out wanting to focus on Protoss strategy specifically. Just very, very specific Protoss strategy, wanting to inform people, wanting to teach people. Because when the game came out, there wasn't any Masters League, there was just Diamond, and I was like high, like rank 1, 2 Diamond with my Protoss play. So I just... like, my first, in comparison to what I do now, which is quite kind of flamboyant and kind of trying to be a little bit more of a personality, it was like, hello guys, my name is Mouz.Kaelaris, and I'm going to be casting a Protoss versus Zerg. And it would just go like that for 20 minutes, like where I was just being completely dry, completely informative, and just kind of getting on with it. And people seem to enjoy it. And actually, I actually have a sticky thread still on the Blizzard official forums for Protoss strategy, and I haven't posted in it for like a year. But it's still there. I mean, you can on the EU forums. So, and that's how I got a little bit of a fan base going. So
There you go.
Hey.
Humble beginnings.
Too true.
All right, well, Matt, what about you? You know, what are you in the second half of this year? What are your goals or aspirations, both professionally and otherwise?
Me? Oh, well, professionally, I'm hoping to get out to some more major tournaments. The last one I went to was MLG Providence last season. But I'm hoping to go to NASL. I think this is 3. The final is in Toronto because it's in Canada, so it's pretty cheap, fairly close. Hopefully, be able to get up to that. That's still not confirmed yet. But I'm also hoping and pretty confirmed I'm going to be going to IPL 5 for the open bracket there, and then hopefully MLG Fall Arena or the championship. Sorry. I hope I go to the arena. That'd be awesome if I qualify for that. But yeah, no, that's my first goals for. At least that's my plan for the near future. My goals for myself are just improving, continuing to improve, and what all you can really do as professional gamers always just continue to improve. Because I'd love to say I'm going to go win GSL, but that's not going to happen quite yet. And I think 1 year is way too soon. So yeah, like I said, just trying to travel more, get to more high-end tournaments, and improve. It's pretty standard.
Gimble's hunted down the thread and was showing it on the stream before from the Blizzard forums.
That's great.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry for interrupting.
What about outside of gaming? Yeah, it doesn't have to be. I know James went into relationships, but you don't necessarily have to go there. I'm just very curious.
Yeah.
Is there a hobby, an activity, something that you outside gaming that you really want to try and pursue more, or get to try?
At the moment, before StarCraft or before competitively playing StarCraft, I played paintball professionally on a level what you call professionally. And I screwed my knee up a couple years ago, so I had to they really screwed it up. I could still play, but it was really effective of my skills, so I had to quit doing that. But my brother still plays, and he travels throughout the U.S. and does local tournaments and stuff like that. So I've been trying my best to coach him and be a big part of their team. So that's my biggest goal outside of life, for right now, is to try and make him, or to be there when he succeeds and stuff, and help him out. And that's my big thing, because like I said before, StarCraft paintball was a really big part of my life. So seeing him still do good is a really big goal for me. So other than that, that's about it.
That's so
personal
cool.
goal is still to improve StarCraft.
I love paintball so much. I've only been able to do it
great.
Once or twice, but it's so awesome.
Yeah, that's how I started too. I just played once or twice, and then got my own gear and started going out once a week, and then just kept doing that for a couple of years. It was great.
I remember the once or twice that I ended up doing paintball. I ended up because they give you that mask to wear and little hood thing that you would wear or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was at the time I had a similar hairstyle. I was like, no, I don't want to mess up my hair. I don't want to wear the mask. And I got shot in the back of the head. Oh, this hurts so much.
That's rough. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, man. The first experience with paintball, I think, for everybody is rough. They have a great time, but they always leave with those battle wounds.
Yeah, too true.
That's great.
I was picking paintball shell out of my hair for 2 weeks.
Oh, that's the worst. The worst is in the mask they have the little vents to breathe through, the slots.
Yeah.
And you get a paintball right through the vents, and it goes into your mouth, and you just. The taste of paintball is pretty disgusting. It's definitely not something I'd eat for dinner. It was pretty gross.
Not at all.
Speaking of dinner and food, we'll definitely be talking about that later. But
oh yeah, I still haven't thought about this question yet.
That's okay. We're gonna take a short break, so you've got time.
All right, cool. I really got to think about this one now.
All right, guys. We're gonna take a quick break at the top of the hour here, and then we'll probably do another half an hour after this. Try and keep it from going too long. But the second half of the hour, we're gonna be talking much more, really focusing on both James and Matt's non-StarCraft, non-gaming related lives. I'm gonna asking about school, about studying, and then about hobbies, other activities you've already touched on a little bit now, and we'll sort of expand. So probably about 2-3 minutes, and then we'll be back. Talk to you guys soon. Hey guys, we are back for the second half of our show with, let's see if I get this right, well, it's Mouz.Kaelaris and LgN.Karmy, also known as James Carroll and Matthew Mulholland. I don't know why I'm struggling with that now.
You got my last name right that time, but you struggled my first name and said it all slow. It's okay, someday you'll get it. Just gotta keep practicing.
Matthew's a hard name to learn.
I'll work on it. All right, so this half as well as the first half, same sort of thing. If you guys have questions, put them in chat. We'll try and get to them. I know a couple that have been answered throughout, but it can be, you can ask questions from the first part of the show about their careers, about StarCraft, about anything gaming related, or you can ask about the second half here, more about hobbies, interests, their studying, things like that. But in the meantime, we're gonna focus first on school. James, in the AMA, you said you studied business and law at university.
Yeah.
I was really curious, where you studied, obviously, but why did you decide to go into business and law? Or why did you decide to pursue an education in that?
Do you want the full story or do you want the short story?
Full story. Every time full story. I don't care how long it is.
Are you still there? Yes, I am, Google. Thank you. Okay. So, I was in a situation where I actually was so good in college, again in inverted commas, that I went to university 2 years early. I went to university when I was 16. So I studied business for. It was technically a 4-year course, but I studied the 4-year course in 3 years. So by the time I was 19, I already had a degree in business. And just as a disclaimer, the reason I ended up studying such subjects is because my parents thought that it was important to have a stable career and a stable way to actually just earn money in general in this world, which I particularly wasn't too happy with. I mean, I enjoyed business. I enjoyed business a lot. Initially, I wanted to go into law, and then I decided that business would be the right route to take first, because I enjoyed it so much at college. And then after my business degree, I ended up doing law for, again, a 4-year course, but I ended up doing it in 3 years. 2 of those years was spent studying from home because I moved to Finland when I was 20, and I lived in Finland for 3 years from England. So, yeah, 2 degrees, kind of done and dusted, as it were, very quickly. And then I was 23 and decided that all of this was absolutely pointless and I would start doing StarCraft. Because gaming was always my passion. That was always what I wanted to do. Something like as a career, just involving something as a career. And moving to Finland was like a liberating experience for me. It really allowed me to find myself. And it allowed me to kind of transcend the boundaries of what everyone else thought was conventional and what everyone thought was the way to go in life. So that's that. Done and dusted.
Well, so did you, before you decided you were just gonna say fuck it and go with StarCraft, or go with gaming and really decide you're gonna do something with that as a career? Had you started to plan out a path for yourself with business and law?
Yeah, I would initially want to have become a lawyer. That being said, a lawyer or a problem solver that would go into businesses and solve their structural and kind of hierarchical structures just in general, to be able to make them more efficient and stuff like that. There's a lot of problem solvers. I don't know if it's similar for other countries, but there's a lot of problem solvers that make a good living just in England from like actually going into companies and being able to kind of make them more efficient, as it were. So that's initially what I wanted to do. Again, it's kind of a similar thing to what I do now, because right now I'm casting and I'm looking at a game and I'm solving puzzles, I'm solving problems, I'm saying to my audience like what's going to happen and stuff like that, which is really cool. And that's kind of what I wanted to do in real life. So, but again, the lawyer thing is actually something that I wanted to do from when I was like 8 years old. When 8 or 9 years old, I was like, I want to become a lawyer. That sounds cool. And I got to law when I was at university, and I realized it was so dry, so ridiculous. You would have to cite so many sources. You would have to cite so many cases in order to be able to prove your point. That, I mean, what's wrong with morals? Like, something's right or something is wrong. You don't have to cite all this stuff going on. So I kind of abandoned that. It was not the best. So there you go. Done and dusted.
Do you, just the last question about law and business, has it, you just mentioned the similarities and and sort of what you want to do, with law and with business, and how that relates to StarCraft. But in terms of your casting career, has the law and business background ever been really useful, come in handy?
Law has only necessarily been useful when I've been reading contracts that I've had to sign, which we did a lot of contract law. So I mean, I'm very kind of savvy with that, as it were. The business side of things, we did a lot of corporate business as well as corporate marketing. So I've been able to extend myself in that. Not as much as I would have liked to have, because there's a lot of ways in which I could have branched out in terms of the marketing side, but a lot of current esports organizations do limit you in that regard, so you can't really kind of fully branch yourself out in that situation. But aside from that, I mean, the smarts of it all do come into play. Presenting yourself, being able to articulate yourself in a correct manner, and apart from that, not much.
All right, Matt. As a side note, you need to do an AMA, so I can also pull from that next time you do an interview. But and sound really, really smart, like I've known you forever. But
Okay.
Are you a full-time player right now, or are you also in school? Or are you doing any other jobs?
At the moment, I'm full-time. It depends where everything goes for the future. I plan to go full-time for the past 3 months, going to Ministry of Win. But with the family emergency coming up and we have to come home early, I'm kind of rethinking things, because even if you do take like a job, right, you can still get in enough hours if you're still dedicated, right? Like that's, I think, the biggest thing for people when they're trying to go pro. Everyone's like, I want to quit my job and quit school and try to go pro and play 8 hours a day. But most people don't realize you can get pretty close to the same hours a week if you're still dedicated enough while still having a job. So just kind of weighing my options, whether I get a job, save up some more money, and then go back to Ministry of Win like I did the first time, which is a pretty stable point. Oh, whoops, sorry. Google popped up asking fast here.
It's okay, you are.
So, yeah, thankfully. But yeah, just right now I'm just kind of weighing my options, seeing what's ahead in the future. But yeah, right now I'm a full-time player, and that's the way I want to keep it if I can.
Sure. Well, if you decide that the path for you is to have a full-time job as well, is there a job that would be ideal for you? Something you would at least enjoy? You think you would enjoy doing the most?
It depends the time I have, because I really wanted to get myself into a trade, whether that be welding, electrical, engineer, something. But at the same time, if I do want to pursue a career in StarCraft or esports, then it's hard to try to choose a career that it's going to take 4 to 5 years to really complete, and then want to quit halfway through if I do have the opportunity to make something of it. Because right now my first goal is to try and go as far as I can with StarCraft, be the best that I can, and make a living with it. But realistically, that's extremely hard to do, and like you can't try and bank the rest of your life off playing StarCraft. So like, well, I'm weighing my options right now. But yeah, like I said, I'd like to get into a trade if I had the time and I was able to see it out to the end. Because I don't want to get halfway through a trade and be like, oh well, I'm good enough to go pro. I'm going to quit halfway through now and then have to pick it up again. So if I do get a job, it doesn't have to be anything too insane. Probably just just a regular job, nothing too intense. Before playing StarCraft and wanting to go full time, I had multiple jobs throughout, like working in kitchens. So that's something I can always fall back on with just a lot of experience, and I really enjoy it. I know the industry, so that's probably the first thing I'd go to if StarCraft didn't work out for now. Like if I just needed a part-time, something to hold me over for a while. But if not, like I said, I'd probably pick up an apprenticeship and go into the trades.
Well, this is a bit personal. Can I ask you, when you're trying to balance the ideal with the reality, because you mentioned that it's sort of a very far stretch for most of us to think that you can make a living forever off of StarCraft.
Yeah.
Where do you find that balance, and where's that breaking point for you that you decide I need to take a job, or I need to do something to support myself financially?
Yeah. I think it's there's no real, like, for me, there's no real set boundaries. Like, oh, if I get here, then I'm going to do. But if not, I just kind of have to play it by ear and see how I do, right? Like if, in 2 years' time I'm winning MLGs and, one of the best players in the world, not saying it's going to happen, but if it's, a situation that comes up and it's possible, then yeah, I want to stick with StarCraft until I'm until I go old and senile and can't play anymore, right? That's kind of my hopes, but to be realistic, like, if you start to fall off the scene, like, you got to still plan for your future. Like, for my dreams, after StarCraft, I want to pick up a trade, and most trades are 4 years minimum, like, between schooling and work, to get to get your full ticket. So you gotta weigh the options. Like, you still have to be responsible and still have to live up your life. So if it takes 4 years for me to get a ticket for a lifetime job, then I don't want to be getting that when I'm 30, right, and having to struggle those years afterwards, right? So you just need to really, I think the earlier I do it, the better. So it's just kind of weighing those options. Like, within the next year, will I be able to make a living off of this? And I'm not trying to make my millions off StarCraft, right? Like, I don't think any pro really is until they're at that level. Most players are just looking to do what they love, and to be able to do that, you do have to survive. So just to be able to make a decent living, just to be able to get by would be fantastic. But even that alone is really hard for a lot of players to come into. So just kind of playing it, see how it goes, and then I have to kind of just judge when the moment comes to know if I want to keep going or time to pull out and get my real life back on track.
Well, is there an ideal trade or profession for you? If you could go into any of them, is there one that you really want to go into more than others?
I really like working with my hands. My brother is right now a journeyman electrician, and like all my friends pretty much all got into electrician. So I might do that, but I've never really been one to like follow the crowd. So I've always wanted to be a welder. I think that'd be fun, like get my deep pressure and do underwater welding or something of the sort. So I haven't looked too much into it because like it hasn't really been like I'm gonna quit everything and try to pick up a profession. So I haven't looked into it too much, but I'd probably do either electrician or welding or something like that.
Do you mind me asking, when you decided to go pro, you said you were working multiple jobs, you were working kitchens. Why the decision to put those down to take up StarCraft full time, as opposed to trying to balance both?
Well, I don't know if you guys read the blog I posted about my first week in Ministry Win. I posted this just my first week of experience in Ministry Win, and in that I had this email from my dad, because my dad's just been so supportive about everything, and he's pretty much the reason I was able to go or even try to go pro. But it was a day we were out fishing, just shooting the shit and getting drunk with each other, just hanging out, because we've always been pretty good friends. And like, I grew up gaming, and I was somewhat good at StarCraft at the time, and he just his idea is just, well, why don't you try to go pro with it? Why don't you see how far you can go with it? So it's more or less my dad just kind of being supportive and like giving me the okay to do it, that I was just like, oh wow, like if you're okay with it, right? Because I was living with him for a while for him to do this, so he's like, yeah, I'm okay with it. Like, you can try this, and I was able to actually settle down and try it. So that was a big step. Was just him being so supportive and him wanting me to do it was a big thing.
Sorry. Mana has just messaged me because he's just got back from DreamHack, so he's like very, very happy. He's like, I still can't believe I'm champion. Bless him. He's so humble and so kind.
Honestly. You should tell him that it was good games, and that I'm a huge fanboy, and that he has to win more now.
I shall tell him right now. He's because he was really unhappy that I was not going to actually be there, because again I was scheduled to be there, but I couldn't go, so he was unhappy that I was going to be there. Mana, so good.
I'm glad he won. Yeah, when I was watching it last night, like all my friends were talking on Skype about who's going to win, and I wouldn't have guessed Mana out of all those players. Like, I was looking at it, and I was like, well, there's Naniwa, Sase, Stefano, and Demaga. It's probably going to come down to like Stefano against Sase or Naniwa, and then Stefano was going to win because it's a Protoss. And then like nothing went out the same way. It was like Demaga and Mana, and then Mana just like crushed them easily. It was great, and I love games like that where you just like you talk to people like, yeah, it should be Stefano versus Naniwa, and then Stefano just crushes them, and then it's completely different, and it's just so much more fun to watch, especially when it's a player that's just deserves it more than almost anybody else, I think.
Too true.
All right. Well, I really want to turn real quick to this paintball with you, Matt, because we talked a little briefly about it during the break, but I really want to know more about how you. Well, first off, I want to know more about what exactly the pro scene for paintball consists of, how like I mean you don't have to give me like a full exposition, but what's it like? How's it organized, and how'd you find it, and what are maybe some of the differences between like regular paintball and pro paintball?
Yeah, well, I'll start off from the beginning. Like, I found it just playing casually with my friends, just kind of went out one day, and I just played and had a great time. And we were all talking about it, like, me and my two buddies, like, yeah, man, we should start a team. That'd be great. Like, all we have to do is buy jerseys. It'd be awesome. We'll just, like, rent guns and stuff, right? We had no idea what we were talking about. But, like, we went out a few times, and it was my brother that really actually got into it first. Like, he went out, he bought his own gun at the time, and he kept playing, and afterwards got upgraded a better gun, and they gave me his hand-me-down gun for free, so I was able to pick it up and start playing with him as well. So he was kind of the reason I got into it. I think the way he got into it was a friend at work or something got him into it. But anyways, so from there we kept playing. It was a nice thing because me and my brother grew up being pretty good friends, and it was just something we did with all of our friends as well. Like me, my brother, Clint, and John, we all played together. We were able to play on the same team together, and just it was a really fun social thing to do. So we just kept playing and kept getting better, and as it kept getting better, just wanted to get competitive with it, and kind of went on from there. Getting into it's not too hard if you can buy your gear. It's an expensive sport because you have to drop a lot of money into getting the gear to start up with, and then playing every week. So before you get like sponsored, it's almost impossible to really be able to play all the time because all your free money goes to it because it's expensive as hell to play. But it was definitely worth every penny. So. Other than that, the difference between like regular paintball, there's actually two different types of paintball. There's like woods balls where you run around the woods and you have like your camo gear on and stuff, and it's just more for fun, like scenario play. And then you have like speedball, which is like really fast paced and really competitive. It's like most cases it's like 15 balls per second at 300 feet per second, and you play on like I don't know the exact measurements of the field, but the field's somewhat big. You play behind bunkers, which are kind of hard to explain. They're like big blow-up rubber things. They're really hard to explain without showing details, but like it's really competitive. It's 5-on-5. They're really fast, and other than that, like it's just kind of like 5 versus 5. You eliminate the other team and get the flag, and you get points for it and stuff. But without being able to sit here and talk for 2 hours, it's hard to explain all the little things and cool parts about paintball. But generally, yeah, it's just a really fast-paced, competitive game. What was the other part of your question? I totally forgot rambling on.
Well, that's okay because my question was rambling anyway. I'm trying to remember what the other part of it was. I mean, I just find this really cool because the only paintball I know is really general. So
Yeah.
my knowledge is so slim.
If you guys want to if you guys are really interested, you can check out a really cool videos. Like there's it's just like if you go to an MLG and stuff, there's big venues that there's pro teams, there's sponsorships, and all this stuff, and they have them throw mostly in the States. So if you search any videos on YouTube like PSP or NPPL, like those are two big companies. Like they have videos made up for all of them, and they just kind of go through the games if you guys are interested in watching them. But yeah, just to be able to sit down and talk about it, it's pretty in-depth sport, and it's really hard to give a general aspect of the game because it's just not really. I don't know. It's just really hard to explain because it sounds like you just kill people and capture a flag and it's really easy, but it's really strategic and it's really physical. You have to be pretty in shape. That's why I wasn't that good at it, but it was still a lot of fun.
Well, how much? I mean, I'm not sure if you know this, but do you know, even in rough terms, sort of how much money is in the scene? Like, can you have a professional team that can make a living off of it?
Yeah, there's a few that do it. It's really feast or famine. Like there's some teams that make just enough to get by, or you play and travel for free, which is every paintballer's dream. You play and travel for free, that's awesome. But then there's some that they actually do make livings. It's just with an MLG, you win a tournament, you get money and stuff. But other than that, there's money in the sport, but it's really hard to get it because it's such a small all the sponsorships are within paintball, so you can't get funding from big corporations, right? So. But there is still money to be made.
Huh. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I really want to ask more, but I should move on. I can ask you more later.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be around.
Awesome. I might have to. I know. I actually haven't done paintball yet. I have people who keep telling me.
Oh man, you gotta try it. It's something
You've
they
never
just.
done paintball?
No.
Oh man, even just to go and kill your friends is the best. Just make sure you shoot them as much as possible. It's the best.
All right, I think I can do that. That shouldn't be too hard. Well, I say that, but We'll see what happens.
Yeah, paintball's a good time.
James, you mentioned drums earlier.
Mm.
Again, sort of like paintball, my drum knowledge is pretty limited. Like my instrument knowledge is piano and guitar, and so when I think about getting better at those instruments or practicing them, to me guitar and piano seem much more like an all-in-one instrument.
Right.
But drums. When I think of drums, I think of it as part of a band, like part of your larger set. How do you practice drums when you're by yourself? How do you improve?
Fun fact that a lot of people don't know is the fact that I am half deaf, and I'm sincerely hoping my mum is not watching this because I've never told her that I'm half deaf in this ear. But she might be watching this actually because she said she was going to watch it. So I was like, oh god. So I've said that now, which was a bit dumb. But yeah, I'm half deaf in this ear, and the reason is because that when I would normally practice, or when I would be at a gig or something like that, obviously things are very loud. I had a acoustic drum set, which is not the same as an electric drum set, which is very quiet. You can plug it into your headphones and stuff like that. However, an acoustic drum set is just a normal drum kit. And I would listen to music whilst playing, and I just play to those songs and stuff. For me, music is very kind of, again, problem solving, like kind of puzzles and stuff. My entire mind is about problem solving and puzzles. Because when it came to music, I would play a lot of fusion jazz and progressive metal, which were always changing time signatures, which were always kind of challenging you in a mathematical sense to be able to keep the rhythm, keep the time. And as the drummer, you're the backbone of that bit. You're the person that needs to keep the time along with the bassist. So I would just practice as much intricate music as possible, and I would deafen myself in the process.
When you say you're listening to music and you're trying to solve the time signatures and keep everything together, would you be trying to imitate the drums you were hearing, or would you just be trying to keep the time and make up your own?
A lot of it was about kind of, because I mean, this cuts back to what you were kind of alluding to as a question later on, but my favorite band, my favorite music is a band called Dream Theater, which is a progressive metal band. And their drummer for a long time, for around 25 years, was a drummer called Mike Portnoy, who is an amazing, amazing drummer who was able to keep such like intricate and complicated structures in his mind for like songs that were so long. I mean, some of their songs were like 42 minutes long. 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, Octavarium was 24 minutes long. So being able to memorize these entire songs and play them so specifically was absolutely phenomenal. So that's something that I tried to kind of refine in myself. And then sometimes I would just kind of, try and... I mean, I played in bands as well, so I was trying to kind of extend myself into my own creative processes in terms of progressive kind of changing time signatures and stuff like that. But apart from that...
Well, with the electric drum kit that you hope to get soon, any chance we'll see you in a band in a bit?
Oh man, you have to join that StarCraft parody boys band. That'd be awesome. Either lead drummer and like backup singer.
Zoe keeps linking me to that. She's like obsessed. No, I would like to join a band here at some point. I know Germany's very into their metal and stuff. I mean, my music tastes kind of are very varied. I like every kind of music apart from rap and stuff, which I don't think is music in the first place. No. But
what about dubstep? Do you like dubstep?
Dubstep's
nice,
cool.
Nice. Okay, good. We can still be friends.
Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. But yeah. I mean, I would like to join a band. I played gigs from when I was like 16 years old onwards, and I really missed that because that was some of the best years of my life. That was so much fun. But we'll see. We'll see.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, if it happens, I hope we'll get as fans we'll get an insider's peek. All right.
We'll record a video of me playing some drums. That'd be fine. Because I mean, because I used to do a lot of solos during gigs as well. Because I was like, I mean, me and my guitarist were like the most talented instrumentalists in our band or whatever. So our solos were quite cool, as it were. So maybe I'll film something at some point.
I think it's been decided now that Kaelaris has to film a drum session, and Karmy, even if it's a casual game, has to film a paintball session and post it up.
I already have those. I already got those.
Oh, where are they?
I don't know. Maybe on YouTube. Maybe on YouTube.
I'll go find them now.
I gotta dig into this.
Oh,
Actually, you know what? I bet you it's on Facebook.
All right,
Oh,
Facebook. All right. I'm gonna have to go find the way to grab them and watch them and rejoice.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good.
Well, tell us a little bit about how you got involved with fencing, and then I know Gimble has a question I'll have to ask in a second.
Nice. I like that question.
Fencing? Did you say fencing?
Well, you said you were. I thought you in your AMA. You said you were a fencer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is gonna sound a bit. So again, I was very involved in playing MMOs and stuff like that. So, and I've always kind of taken on the fact that guns are rubbish and guns aren't skillful and stuff. So I thought, I really want to kind of go for some kind of sword play kind of thing. I also did kendo for about 4 years as well, but not as avidly as fencing. So fencing kind of seemed like the most traditional of sports to be able to take up. And the great thing for me is I'm a left-handed person. I technically am ambidextrous in terms of drumming, but being left-handed in fencing is an extreme advantage, because the most people that do fencing are right-handed, and they only practice against right-handed people. So I was able to win my first tournament during fencing purely based off the fact that I was a left-handed player. Because a lot of it's all right if you're a left-hander going up against another left-hander, then it's fine, because you know what they can do. But if it's a left-handed player going up against a right-handed player, for example, then they kind of have no clue how to parry and have no clue how to kind of riposte and kind of lunge and stuff against the moves that you can do. So that was fun. Nice trophy. It was big.
Big is good. Is fencing something you still do right now?
Not right now. I'm really kind of sad about that. I haven't been able to do it since I was in Finland, because I wasn't able to find any clubs and people weren't speaking my language. But I really do want to take it up again, because it's so much fun. It's so much fun. A lot of fun.
Well, Gimble does want to know if there's any chance we'll see a Kaelaris vs. Torch match, a fencing match.
Torch? Does he fence?
Torch is fenced. Torch was a state champion, I think. Rachel's Seltzer as well.
No way.
I think both of them, yeah.
Oh man, that's gonna be a good interview.
The funny thing is, I worked with Rachel and Torch for a long time, but with CSN, but he never actually mentioned that he was a fencer. So I'll take him on, that's fine. I mean, the thing is, I took really quickly to fencing because I was so enthusiastic about it. I was like, right, I need to stab this person right now, right here. And it was, I mean, obviously, there's one or two moves in fencing, though, that are really kind of brutal. I mean, I don't know if you know much about fencing, but you wear a full metal vest, basically, and your foil, which is your rapier or whatever, however you want to call it, is magnetized. So whenever it makes connection with that vest, then you get a point. The beeper goes off and it's like boop, and then you win a point. And there's a brutal kind of maneuver that you can do, which is instead of stabbing someone, you actually whip their shoulder really hard with the foil, which is quite flexible in itself, and it hurts so much. But people do it so often. I used to do it all the time in my competitive matches. It was horrible because it throws you off. It hurts really badly. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I'll take Torch on. That's fine.
Okay, good. Yeah, and Gimble said I was right that Rachel was also competitive fencer. That's actually, I thought it was. That's how Torch and
Rachel
her.
was as well.
Yeah, that's how they met. They met through fencing.
They
And
never
apparently,
told me this.
I think Rachel was the better fencer.
I
But
know who wears the trousers in that relationship.
Yeah.
oh, good stuff indeed. All right. Yeah, all right. I was trying to think about whether I want to ask questions about MMOs, but we'll wrap it up. It's been long enough. I can ask you about MMOs later. All right. Last 4 questions. Big 4. I'll go one by one. I'll ask you the first one, and I'll just ask both of you, and we'll go that way. So, big 4: movies, music, books, food. Starting with movies. Matt, favorite movie all time.
Oh man, I totally forgot to think about this during this entire interview. I don't even know, man. That's rough. That's a tough question. I guess Saving Private Ryan is a good one. Like the old school war movie. That was pretty good.
Yes, indeed. All right, that's acceptable. All right, James. Now you're on the spotlight. Favorite film.
Favorite film? Maybe people haven't seen it too much, but it's a film called The Count of Monte Cristo.
Mm-hmm.
A film basically about revenge and a gentleman taking huge amounts of revenge on his so-called friend and so-called lover. Although that being said, he gets back with his lover at the end of the film, which is like stupid because that said lover gets with his best friend, and like why would you end up? Anyway, the point is, it's a good film.
Thank you. You've convinced me. Brilliant. All right, what about music? I mean, you talked a little bit already, James, so maybe continue. You said
Yeah.
theater.
Dream Theater, a progressive metal band. Also, I like a lot of oldies like Frank Sinatra, Andy Williams, and stuff like that. I like singing to those because it fits well with my melodic voice sometimes. Also, fan of stuff like Flux Pavilion, Skrillex.
Nice.
Cell Dweller is a huge. I'm a huge fan of Cell Dweller. I really hope he ends up touring the EU sometime because he's always chilling out in America. But again, it really does range from oldies like Andy Williams up to stuff like Behemoth and Amon Arath and like really kind of heavy stuff. So.
All right. And server connection's been lost. Never mind, it's restored. Matt, favorite music, favorite bands, favorite songs.
I think I listen to dubstep the most, like by far. Like, that's all I really have on my playlist is a lot of dubstep. Favorite band within that, or like favorite artist? I don't know if anybody heard of them. Adventure Club. They don't have a few songs out, but they have probably my favorite songs. So Adventure Club's by far one of them. It's kind of unknown, but it's pretty good.
Can you give us a couple songs so we can?
Fox's Youth, I think, is the remix. Like Fox's Youth was one of the remixes, and then I See Color, and I'm blanking on the other one. So I'm actually just gonna check Adventure Club. Where are they on my friends or my list? I can't even find them. I'll just stick with those two. So Fox's Youth and I See Color, or I Do See Color. Those are like the two best that I listen to. So they're pretty good.
Cool. All right. Well, what about books? You get to go first, Matt.
Throughout middle school, I read the whole Pendragon series. I don't know if you guys ever read that book. Kind of like a sci-fi fantasy novel, but I haven't read that in a long time. And I haven't really been too much of an avid reader. I want to see Game of Thrones, but I really only like started in the first book and then put it down after I watched like the first episode. I was like, oh man, this would be awesome to read the book. But I just kind of read it, like the first chapter, and I was like, well, I'm going to go play StarCraft. And then it's kind of just been sitting up in my room since. So yeah, I haven't been too much of an avid reader after school. So Pendragon, I'll just stick with that as my favorite book.
Pendragon.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty decent series.
Huh. It's a fantasy series?
Yeah, it's like fantasy, sci-fi kind of thing.
Okay.
It's good.
Cool, I should look it up. Alright, James, you're up. Literature, books.
In terms, the only books I read was really kind of Lord of the Rings and then Game of Thrones when I was, or at least the Game of Thrones series when I was a little bit younger. and then the series came out, and I was really surprised by that it was coming out. But they're actually not my favorite books. My favorite books are textbooks.
Oh man, I love human biology. That was the best textbook. That was awesome.
Oh well, like I'm really into studying, so I really enjoyed my business book, and when I was in college, I studied maths, physics, history, and business. So my favorite books are stuff like astrophysics books and stuff like that, to be able to learn about like the universe and like Sloane's Great Wall and like just different like stars and like constellations and galaxies and formations of superclusters and supermassive black holes. So I'd say what I can't even remember the name of it, but books on astrophysics. There you go.
I like that. I can respect that. If you were like, I really liked Math 101. I was like, oh man.
But I do like math. I mean, I'm joking.
Now I feel bad. But yeah, I was terrible at math. I hated the textbooks.
Oh, I love them. Decision maths was the best. Yeah. It was like, decision maths was... Because everything else, whilst I was doing calculus and all that kind of stuff, decision maths was how to get to this point, from this point, in the most efficient amount of time. And it was like, wow, more puzzles to solve. I was so happy. But no, astrophysics, we're going to stick with that. Good stuff.
I like that. That'd actually be a pretty decent book to read. Not even going to lie.
Alright. I guess maybe I'll look that up too. I think that's going to be a bit denser, but I'm sure just as rewarding. Might take me a little longer though. Alright, the last one, last of the four. Food. Matt first. Favorite food?
Favorite food? Sushi.
Favorite dish? Sushi?
Sushi, yeah.
What kind of sushi?
All of it. Like, I don't really have a favorite type. I don't know. I love sushi. It's awesome. I made the mistake on my way back from Poland. On my way here, there was like a little deli or cafe in the airport in Chicago, and I was like, well, man, I got like a 2.5 hour layover, so I went to this little place and bought a little box of airport sushi. That was a really, really dumb idea. That was terrible. Airport sushi is not the same as real sushi, man. That was disgusting. It almost ruined sushi for me. So that was awful. But yeah, like sushi, just all types is awesome. There's a really like nice all you can eat like sushi place like really close to my house. So me and a bunch of friends go there, and it's awesome. I love it.
Have you ever tried making your own sushi, or do you just go?
Yeah, not at home, but like when I worked in restaurants and whatnot, some of the fancy restaurants I worked in had like sushi for appetizers and whatnot. So I got used to rolling it, and I could not be the guys that do it behind the counter. Like authentic sushi makers do it so fast, and they do it so nice looking. I'm terrible at making sushi. I feel bad whoever has to eat it, because it probably looks like total shit when I do it, but yeah, making sushi is really difficult.
Cool. It's actually really cool that you tried it. Huh. Well, what would you... If you've got someone who hasn't had much sushi before, what would you recommend, like a good starter?
A lot of people don't want to try sushi because they don't think raw fish would be good, but really, like, the raw fish doesn't have like a huge dent in the taste overall, because like soy sauce and like the rice and all that stuff usually, like, is the majority of what you taste. But I'd say like something like a vegetable sushi, something easy. So there's not a real one that I could suggest because I don't actually even know the names of it. I just like sit down and I don't like the raw fish that much myself. So, but yeah, like anything with vegetables in it, that's usually the good way to go.
All right, sounds good. James, I don't actually know the story behind the lasagna and the AMA, but someone asked you what your food was, and you said lasagna, and
I don't have a huge answer, to be honest. I mean, like a varied answer at least, because I'm really, really picky about food, and in fact, I'm so picky about food that it stopped me from actually going places. Like, for example, Cassandra, Grubby's wife, has said that I should go and visit them in the Netherlands, but I'm kind of apprehensive about it because I'm so picky about food that I don't want to offend people. Because I hate vegetables. I can't stand vegetables. I'm just like a complete carnivore. So I don't know. I guess if I had to pick something, I mean, you told me about it initially. I've been eating a lot of popcorn recently. I mean, I'm gonna stick with that. Literally, I mean, like popcorn. Like it's. I could pull up huge bags. Like, I've got so many different bags of popcorn here. I eat really, really badly, and in the office we like eat terribly as well. We always order food, so it's always like, I don't know, Chinese and stuff like that. But even when I order Chinese, I say, no vegetables, please. I just want to stick with rice and chicken. And that's it. Chicken fried rice. That's pretty good.
That is actually really good. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
There's some grains at least. It's a good start. Meat and
Yeah.
grains. It's not bad. But someone wanted to know a little earlier what wine you were drinking.
Wine, Chateauneuf de Pape 1854. I'm a big red wine drinker. We had a wine cellar in England, and as such, I was able to get a lot of knowledge from that. So I really do love red wine. Kale going to WCS. I've seen him in the Facebook event. I'm not going to the UK WCS. I really wish I was, because I've been casting I've cast 6 WCS already, 7th coming up very soon, and I don't end up getting to go to my own country's WCS. That sucks a lot.
It is a shame.
Yes.
I'm trying to look through here for any chat questions. Someone wanted to know, SC2 Hoodlum wanted to know if you guys were excited for POTS, or if you preferred to stick with Wings of Liberty for a little while longer.
Matthew?
Personally, I'm pretty excited for it. I think there's going to be a lot of really stupid shit they have to balance out. Like, as much as like being a Protoss, I'm so excited for the Tempest. 22 range, that's awesome, but I think people can complain about it. And the thing I'm going to hate is the Viper. Like, I was watching the gameplay, and I don't understand. They pull your Colossus into the group of shit, and you die. Like, if without Colossus, you're not going to win against like Hydra. It's ridiculous. It's rough.
I think Viper's one of those that they really need to evaluate in terms of design, because it does take away, especially from Protoss, it takes away their extremely valuable units and makes them completely redundant, which is terrible. Again, they said that MLG Anaheim, everything was like ridiculously balanced to the point, imbalanced to the point where people just wanted to have fun with the units and they wanted them to test them out and not kind of traverse around them. But I think that as a random player, everything's kind of insane right now. There's no real way to judge it. Again, the Tempest with 22 range just seems absolutely ludicrous. I'm a Protoss player at heart, so I can relate that is amazing. But also,
I just really don't understand it. Sorry, go ahead.
No. You say you don't understand it. I technically don't understand it either. I don't see how they're gonna make that work.
Because it's kind of useless too. Like it does no splash damage, but it does 65 damage per shot. But it has a 6-second cooldown or something, so it does in total 10 damage per second.
Yeah.
So it's I can see maybe breaking a siege line, but that's really about it. It's cool because it has a lot of range, but I'm not going to be making 4 or 5 of them and hope to decimate an army with it.
From a Protoss point of view, I'm also not a huge fan of the Oracle. I think that whilst it's cool to be able to shut down mineral lines and stuff like that, as a player, well, I'd rather be able to kill workers and shut that down fully, as opposed to just say, oh well, here's some bubbles around your minerals, have fun tickling them for a while, and then getting back to standard operations. If they want to give us a raiding, I think actually, a lot of you said that you wanted to know our opinions of transitioning to HOTS and sticking with Wings of Liberty. I think that I really wish that the expansion wasn't coming out for a while, because I don't think people have fully explored Wings of Liberty at all just yet.
I completely agree.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are kind of, especially from a Protoss point of things, discovering the abusive advantages of warp prisms and going for aggressive tendencies with that early on to be able to go and raid, which is what the Oracle was designed for, to allow the Protoss to have a raiding unit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's coming into its own life, and we're seeing, like, even just at DreamHack right now, like, one amazing move that Hero pulled, where, like, he, like, hallucinated a load of warp prisms to be able to, like, conceal his, like, actual warp prism that was dropping in the main, was so cool. And we're only going to see more and more things like that crop up, even in the current build of StarCraft 2.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I don't even think there has to be any patching or, like, I'm excited that Heart of the Swarm is coming out because they've announced it. But if they would have just delayed it for another, 6 months, even a year, like, I don't think people would have been too upset. Because, like, Protoss, I don't even think is completely figured out yet. Like, they don't even know how to take a third base yet. Every other race knows how to get up to 5 or 6 easily, and Protoss, like, I'm just gonna build shit and try to kill you. If I don't kill you, I lose.
Yeah.
That's kind of frustrating. It'd be nice to see more players try and experiment and see what we can do with it. Because I think there's a lot of units in Heart of the Swarm that are kind of reactionary to the way the metagame is now, which the metagame shouldn't be this way, right? Like, Protoss staying on 2 bases and not having a raiding unit, like you said, is really stupid. Because the Warp Prism with speed is just ridiculously powerful, but no one's taking the time to really think about it. So I think there's a lot of things that Blizzard's going to put in the game now and then regret either putting it in or have to nerf it to the point where no one wants to use it because they just realize that, the game is figured out now and these units were just stupid.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, Matthew, you see the entirety of the DreamHack finals between Mana and Demago?
Yep, I've seen all 3 games.
You saw the
4 games.
You saw the match on Daybreak where Mana sniped out the 4th with his Warp Prism control?
Yeah.
That was the sickest moment of the tournament for me. That was so good.
Yeah. Did you watch the games Hearthstone up against I think it was against Hero, and he should have lost the game. Like, he lost the PvP hands down, but he had Speed War Prism because he went for, like, the early War Prism Immortal play, and then he just out-microed Hero completely because he had Speed War Prism and didn't lose a single Colossus. When it was, like, Colossus on Colossus fights and just won. It was ridiculous, and, oh, man, that was, that, and then, Mana sniping the 4th with just, like, good micro was insane. It was awesome
insane. Yeah, it really was, because he was, like, kind of turning into phasing mode, turning out phasing mode, dropping Immortals, warping in Zealots, all in, like, a space of about 10 seconds, but there was so much going on in that 10 seconds. It was, and I don't actually, I mean, I can't remember who was casting it, but I don't think they gave that specific point justice. When I was seeing that, I was like, oh my god, that was the sickest move of the tournament, and nobody was like, oh... So
I think he definitely deserved a lot more credit than what he got for that, because that was just insane.
It really was. Anyway, let's not keep talking. It was a slight tangent, but Warp Prism play, pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's going to catch on a lot more.
Yeah.
Matt, you've got a question from King Dime about. He says, when you were in Calgary before the Ministry of Wind, your strengths were impatience and thought process, and he was wondering how you've been fixing up the weaker parts of your gameplay since the Ministry of Wind.
Like I said, just like structurized practice, Ministry of Wind really helped, and trying to identify my weaknesses. One of them was like just not looking at the minimap when I should have been, or like not staring at the minimap pretty much during games. That was really bad, and just not macroing during like important times, like again build probes and just little things like that. That you just really have to focus on to change. So. I think I've changed a few things, but once you start to change one thing, it seems other things start to go amiss. So when you start staring at the minimap more, then your macro starts to slip because you're too busy trying to improve on too many things at once. So it's kind of a transitionary stage of just trying to perfect everything I've learned so far and try to keep going on with it. But I think so far, I learned quite a lot about myself in general and Ministry Win, and hopefully I can continue on to improve from there.
Fantastic. Well, it's been almost 2 hours now. So,
oh man, that's awesome.
What's the normal time, out of curiosity?
Normally we have one person on, we go for about an hour. So I mean, it's
applicable then.
Yeah, two people, 2 hours. I had this ridiculous notion that I was somehow going to be able to keep the conversation an hour, but nah. No way. That was silly.
Not with red wine. Simple.
Well, not all of us were so lucky to have red wine.
Well, it was cloaked in the shadows, so I found it. It's okay. Actually, I've run out now, so I've drank a whole bottle. So
yeah, now you're just kind of full of disappointment.
Too true.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Don't you just really wish you could find another one just hiding in the shadows? That'd be great.
Yes.
Find one more.
The great thing about my work is, though, that I technically go in whenever I want, so I can just drink anything. Like, oh yeah, I'll just show up at 1 o'clock and just be like, as long as I stay at work for 8 hours, or as long as I'm doing. But then again, everything I do in general, in terms of casting, every time I'm watching streams, every time I'm making notes, every time I'm watching replays, is all work anyway. So, and I do that 24/7. So my entire life is StarCraft. I have no social life. It's fine.
Yeah. The life of a pro gamer or pro caster, it's awesome.
Yeah, too true.
Yep.
The price of greatness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys have any closing comments you want to make before shoutouts?
Matthew?
Well, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and thanks again for having me on the show. I appreciate the opportunity to sit down and talk with you guys. It was a lot of fun.
Yep.
The last.
A lot of fun.
Anything you want to?
A lot of fun. Do appreciate it. And again, huge thank you to ESL TV and ESL just in general for picking me up, and all the sponsors that we're going to have for the upcoming IEM series. Thank you to Blizzard, actually, for being so receptive for me in terms of the WCS casts and stuff like that. And aside from that, actually, I don't know if my mum's watching still, but shout out to my mum, because I don't know, like, if anybody ends up wandering onto my mum's Facebook page, it's plastered with pictures of like Blizzard, ESL, me casting and stuff. She's been like super supportive ever since I ended up starting doing this, so that's really cool.
That's hard to find. That's really nice that you have that. Yeah, I know it's like my dad's the same way. He's really supportive and just likes to follow everything. It's great.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, for myself, for shoutouts, I'd like to thank Team Legion, my team. They're freaking awesome. Thanks for picking me up. They've been helping so much. It's unreal. Our sponsors, Razer, MaxFrag, and Imager. 3 biggest ones there. They've been helping out a lot as well. And other than that, just family and friends support me and doing what I could do. And once again, thanks to you guys for having me on the show. A lot of fun. It was a good experience.
It's been. I mean, I'm really thankful to both of you. You know, we had another interview lined up, and that fell through last minute. We were scrambling around trying to figure out who we could get on really short notice, and I was worried we were going to happen one this week, and then we get both of you, and it's been phenomenal. So,
well, thank you.
know, it's been a wonderful interview. So I'm really happy. So I thank you guys for making the time in your schedules to sit down and chat with us.
Free night, man. Free night. Good stuff.
Yeah. Oh man.
All good. So again, thank you guys. I'm trying to think what else I should say in closing. Next week we will be talking with Frodan. We will be Tuesday from here on out, as far as we know, 1700 hours Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday from here from now on. But we're talking to Frodan next week, and then the first week of July we're looking to talk with one of the researchers working on that large replay study. And how that correlates to skill and transferability. And then we're also looking to talk with Viva La Dirt League, who just released a new video BattleNet. But that'll probably be sometime mid-July. We have to work the exact date out with them. But that's
Is that the boy band we're talking about?
Yes, that is the boy
nice.
band.
Get them on, and then get Kaelaris on as well, and then try to get them to sign a contract for the new drummer and lead singer. But dude, you'll get all the like women fanboys, or all not the fanboys, but all the women fangirls. You just go on stage and like do your hair flick, and they'll fall in love.
Look, right. I mean, okay, not to brag or anything, but like, do you know how easy it is with an English accent to actually go out in Germany and be like, "Hi, I was wondering if you could help me for a second." And then, literally, I've had girls like come up to me and offer me their phone numbers, like really pretty girls.
Nice.
So it works all right, man. I don't know what to say.
So do you have like a lot to thank for that hair? Because I don't know, man. I kind of want to have hair, honestly, like as thick as yours. So I don't know, man. It's just something about it. I want to like walk up to somebody, just flick and walk away.
Dude, I mean,
that important.
I guess it helps. I guess it. Yeah. What you do is you go into a shop and you like ask a particular pretty girl like if they can help you with a certain product, and then you say like they start talking to you like, "Oh, why are you in Germany?" And then you just say, "Well, I technically work in TV." And then they're like, "Oh, TV." Like it's so bad, right? But It works. It works. I don't know what to tell you.
Man, that's smart. I like that. I mean, I'm somewhat of a professional athlete, some sort of.
There you go. There you go.
I'm a professional sportsman.
The pickup line is already there.
Exactly. It was great.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
I've learned a lot. I learned today how to pick up women, and I learned that lip balm and lip chap are the same thing.
I learned that too. I really did think lip balm was different. I feel really embarrassed now.
I thought. Okay.
Apparently, you were the only one who was ahead of the times and knew the difference.
I honestly thought lip balm was like the sparkly, like cherry flavored shit that girls put on their lips to look pretty.
Well, that's true as well. Maybe.
Is it the same thing?
No, that's lip gloss.
Oh, that is true. That's lip gloss, not lip
now
balm.
Now I'm just looking bad. I think it's time we end it. This is just gonna get worse. It's gonna get much worse.
English showing you all up. I don't know what to say.
Like a sir.
Like a sir.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We're gonna call it. A show. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Again, we'll be talking to Frodan next week, and keep on the lookout on our Twitter, on our Facebook page, and whatnot for more information. Thanks, guys. You're awesome.
Thank you very much.
There you go. We got it.